Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to the preview for the 2022 Japanese Grand Prix. It feels so good to be talking about F1 at Suzuka again. It's only been 3 years, but doesn't it feel like an eternity since the sport raced at the famous track? I am so happy it is back, finally. But before I start completely fanboying about a racetrack, lots to get through in this preview, so let's hop straight into it, starting as always with a look at the track and all the usual stats that follow. So just last weekend, F1 was at the Marina Bay Circuit for a slightly damp Singapore Grand Prix, but now it's on to Japan for round 18 of the season and Max Verstappen's second chance to seal the title. A lap of the superb Suzuka Circuit, which is, by the way, F1's only figure of 8 layout, is 5.807 kilometers long. That is just over 3.6 miles if you prefer, and is made up of 18 corners, some very famous, of course, and come Sunday, we should be set to see a total of 53 racing laps. There will be just the one DRS zone this weekend to help with overtaking, and that zone will run down the start-finish straight. This is, though, a track where overtaking is very much possible, and not just with the use of DRS. Keep an eye on turn 11 in particular, or the Kobayashi hairpin as we like to call it, for some Kamui-style dive bombs. The race lap record is held by Lewis Hamilton, who posted a 1:30.983 on his way to P3 in 2019, where he finished behind race winner and teammate, of course, Valtteri Bottas and Sebastian Vettel, who took second place on the podium. And that, by the way, was Vettel's first podium at Suzuka, a track he used to dominate on in his Red Bull days, of course, since 2015. 4 years prior, and over the years, he's also won 4 times at the circuit, and amazingly, his win in 2009 was his 4th career F1 victory from his 4th pole position of the 2009 season. It's all about the number 4 today. Oh, and as well as being the number of pit stops Ferrari will think is the appropriate strategy for Charles Leclerc on Sunday, 4 is also the number of tyres fitted to an F1 car. Yes, it is tyre talk time. Sorry, Ferrari fans, that was a bit cheeky. The compounds available for this weekend are the hardest in the Pirelli range, and so they are the hard C1, the medium C2, and the soft C3. Pirelli says that the sustained energy loads through the tyres are some of the highest of the year, and that, as well as the layout of the track, is why the hardest compounds have once again been selected for Japan. And for what it's worth, the winning strategy in 2019 was a soft to medium and then back to soft 2-stopper, but 8 other drivers managed to make a 1-stopper work. Of course, very different cars and very different tyres compared with what we have now. Still, though, the more you know and all that, but traditionally, this is a 1 or 2-stop race, so unless we get safety car interruptions, don't expect many more than that. And that said, safety cars don't crop up all that often at Suzuka, with just 9 races featuring a full safety car period over the years. And for those who like to know, the pit lane loss time isn't too high. So as an example, Valtteri Bottas' 2.4 second stop in 2018 resulted in a total pit lane loss time of just over 22.7 seconds. It is also worth noting that this weekend's FP2 session will be 90 minutes long instead of the usual 1 hour, so that teams can run some 2023 prototype slick tyre testing for Pirelli. Interestingly though, the press release from the tyre manufacturer says that the entire session will be devoted to the test, but if a team runs a young driver in FP1, then they will be allowed to run their own program for the first 30 minutes of FP2 before switching focus to the test for the rest of the session. The weather can certainly mix things up at Suzuka, although hopefully we'll be avoiding any typhoons this year. Remember the last time F1 was at the track, qualifying had to be pushed back to Sunday morning. You'll be pleased to hear, though, no typhoons are expected, but rain is currently forecast to hit the track on Friday, with, at time of recording, a 90% chance of a wet FP1 and FP2. So actually, Pirelli's planned tyre test could be ditched if the rain does come. It should be dry on Saturday, though, for both the final practice session and qualifying, with highs of 22 degrees. But the rain could return on Sunday, with some forecasts predicting a 60% chance of rain, but others are saying it's actually less than that at around 20%. Temperatures for Sunday, by the way, are set to hit highs of 21 degrees for the start of the race. As ever, though, that is the forecast at time of recording, but it could easily change between now and the weekend, but rain is in the air once again. Your schedule for this weekend is an early one in Europe, although I'm not sure it's as early as it used to be when I was growing up. I'm sure I used to get up at like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Maybe I'm misremembering, but anyway. FP1 will kick things off on Friday at 4 a.m. BST, and FP2 is from 7 a.m. later that morning. Again, that session will be 90 minutes long. FP3 gets the Saturday F1 action underway at 4 a.m. with qualifying underway from 7 a.m. And it is lights out for the race on Sunday at 6 a.m. and once again that is in UK time. And as previously touched on, Max Verstappen has the chance once again to wrap up the World Championship this weekend, and it is more likely than it was in Singapore. There are lots of permutations as always, but I'm going to keep this very, very simple because, to be honest, it is very, very simple. Verstappen needs to outscore Charles Leclerc by 8 points at Suzuka and Perez by 6 points if he wants to take the crown, which means if he wins, Leclerc must finish second to potentially delay Red Bull's party. However, if Verstappen wins and sets the fastest lap, it is irrelevant where Leclerc finishes because Verstappen would win on countback if the championship is tied after Abu Dhabi. And just FYI, if Max does win, Perez is completely out of contention. Like I say, there are lots of other permutations for if Verstappen finishes second, third, fourth, etc. But really, all we need to know is 8 more points than Leclerc and 6 more than Perez, and he is a double world champion. Let's not overcomplicate it. And just a quick stat for you, if Verstappen wraps it all up this weekend, he will match the feat of winning the title with 4 races left in a season, which has previously been achieved by Michael Schumacher in 2001 and 2004 and Sebastian Vettel in 2011. Now, super quickly before I move on, we are expecting some news from the FIA soon on the cost cap and which teams have stayed under it, although there are some reports now saying that we won't hear anything this week at all. But anyway, unfortunately, I'm having to record this preview a little bit earlier than usual, and so the news hasn't been announced as I sit here and record this. If, though, anything has been released between me saying this and the video going out, I will, of course, post a link to an article with all the info you need in the description, pinned in the comments and in the community area on YouTube, as well as over on Twitter. Okay, then, before I get on to my predictions, it's time to take a look back at a classic race at Suzuka. And it seems rather fitting, given that Max Verstappen can wrap the title up this weekend, that I take a look at a title decider. So, I've decided to relive the heartbreak I suffered as a 12-year-old by flashing back to the 1998 Japanese Grand Prix. 36 now, it still hurts. I'll get over it eventually, I promise. Anyway, Mika Häkkinen went into the weekend 4 points clear of Michael Schumacher, meaning the Ferrari driver really needed to win with the McLaren finishing third or lower, as Häkkinen would win on countback if he took P2 and the championship was tied, because he would end up with more second place finishes. Second or higher would be enough if Häkkinen failed to score, and it all seemed to be going well as Schumacher stuck it on pole by almost 0.2 of a second over Häkkinen in qualifying. However, it all quickly unravelled on Sunday with the German stalling on the line at the start of the second formation lap, which meant he had to start from the back of the grid. Häkkinen led the field away when the race finally got going, with Eddie Irvine moving up into P2 and Frentzen to P3, with Coulthard dropping to 4th place. By the end of lap 2, Schumacher was up to P11 and continued to carve his way through the field and eventually caught Coulthard, but decided to pit rather than lose any time in that fight. Häkkinen was in control up front, but after 30 laps, his title rival was third. Was he back in it? That was the question. Well, it would have been tough as Häkkinen was driving brilliant and, as I say, was absolutely very much in control. But there was still just a little bit of hope. At least that was until Esteban Tuero decided to climb over the back of Tora Takagi's Tyrrell at the final chicane, leaving debris on the track. Debris Schumacher ran over, causing a slow puncture, which eventually blew his right rear tyre to pieces on the start-finish straight, which forced him to pull over and retire, and me to get, well, yeah, a tad emotional at the time. That meant that whatever happened from there, Häkkinen was guaranteed the title, and the Finn brought the McLaren home in P1 ahead of Eddie Irvine and David Coulthard to take his first of 2 back-to-back drivers' titles. And this next stat really took me back. McLaren's first constructors' title since 1991, and amazingly, their most recent one as of 2022. Look, it was a tough one to swallow as a Michael Schumacher fan at the time, but it was a well-deserved title for one hell of a driver in what was one hell of a season. Right then, time for some predictions, and as always, please don't take these too seriously. They are just a little bit of fun, and if you do disagree with my picks, you can let me know yours in the comment section down below. And my first prediction this week is that Max Verstappen will seal the World Championship. Wasn't exactly a great weekend for him in Singapore, but the pace he demonstrated coming through the field on a street track was incredible. And I said it on Sunday, but had he started out front, he surely would have just kept disappearing after those safety car periods. And although, yeah, the tracks are very different, I can see him having very much the same pace in Suzuka. And if that's the case, and it's a faultless weekend from Red Bull, then I just can't see anybody stopping him. I am pretty much going all in on Verstappen for this one. Don't get me wrong, Ferrari will be a threat, particularly in qualifying. No doubt about that, really. After all, that is where they have been super strong this season. And I do think we're looking at best, a Red Bull versus Ferrari fight at the front. I'm also hopeful that his win last time out will have given Sergio Perez a boost, and he will go well in Japan too. He's had a mixed few races and could do with going on a run of really strong performances and results. So you probably know where I'm going with this one. I am going for a Verstappen win with Sergio Perez completing a Red Bull 1-2, which, just so you know, would not be enough to secure the constructors no matter what happens. I am going to go with Charles Leclerc for the final step on the podium and to take the fastest lap as he tries everything to keep his very, very, very slim title hopes alive. Behind the top 3 teams, though, I really fancy Alpine to bounce back following that shocker from the team on Sunday at Singapore. I think McLaren will be close once again, and I am once again really looking forward to that battle between the two teams. But this track should suit Alpine nicely, and so I'm going for a double points finish for them and predict they will take P4 in the standings just. And I'm not writing McLaren off totally. As I say, it will be close, so a perfectly timed safety car like we saw on Sunday or something like that could easily swing it either way. And when it comes to some bolder predictions for this one, I'm going to go with points for Yuki Tsunoda his home race. I've got to do that. Let's go with a top 9 finish. I'll say Lance Stroll will bag a top 10 start. And I'll say Zhou Guanyu outqualifies and outraces his teammate Valtteri Bottas, assuming the poor guy avoids Nicholas Latifi and gets some luck with reliability. But anyway, that is it for the Japanese Grand Prix preview though, but you can let me know your thoughts and your predictions ahead of the weekend in the comment section down below. Now, I will be back shortly after the race on Sunday with the usual reaction stream, but in the meantime, if you did enjoy this one, then please do leave a like as it really does help the channel out, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future content. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.